once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Monix TV. I'm very excited today because it's a brand new episode, an episode that I title Young Black Female Achievers. And for so many of you who follow me on social media, you realize that I posted a month ago, exactly a month ago, that I wanted to do something really interesting, something that will motivate a lot of young women out there because these days a lot of people are called influencers. They influence young people, but they don't influence young people the right way. And of course, we all know that there are a lot of people doing well, a lot of young females doing very well, but spotlight is not on them because the world today really wants to focus on those who are making money, those who are getting famous, even though they are not doing it the legitimate way. But today, I've taken it upon myself to bring to you guys, females who are doing very well. And of course, today I have an amazing guest, a young woman who is doing so well for herself. She's in the maritime industry. She's an attorney, a maritime regulatory attorney at that. That is one very rare area where you see women and she's trying, she's doing very well. And I know a lot of you will be motivated when you hear a story. So without wasting any more time, let me introduce to you my guest on today's episode. Her name is Mrs. Evie Omagbemi. I will allow her to introduce herself, to blow her on, to blow her trumpet, so that you guys can really know who she is. Welcome with me, Mrs. Evie Omagbemi. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm really honored for you to have me on your program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, I just hit it running. So my name is, like she said, is Evie Constance Omagbemi. So I prefer to go by the name Constance. I
Sometimes.
think it's easier for people to remember. Okay, so I'm a maritime regulatory lawyer. I'm also a writer and an author as well. I'm a mother of four, and a wife.
Wow.
Yeah, so I work currently with the Nigerian Maritime Regulatory Authority. So I'm a lawyer within the system, but I serve in different capacities. So what I do basically is that I provide legal strategy on how to accomplish our statutory functions. Because what it is that, like, for every country, you have time administration for every country. So what they do is to try to implement the conventions which is made at a global level to bring it down to the national level to try to implement it. So not just implement it as well, to be part of the convention making process. So with that, we get to go to the International Maritime in London, where we have our meetings and just big plans towards upholding the global standard in the maritime industry.
Amazing. So do you get to draft some of these conventions? Do you sit with stakeholders sometimes to have conversations?
It's a long process. So, I mean, for so any country could actually come up with an idea and put it forward. But so everybody gets to have a say. So we have meetings, technical meetings, and all those meetings. So even if you're not going to London, you contribute to the process in some certain way. Yeah. So and even like within Africa, we have African groups that will meet at a regional level and make up our views heard. Yeah.
Share with us what your background is and how you were able to get to, where you are today.
Okay, so I come from a very, very academic background. So my dad was a lecturer. So he used to lecture political science when I grew up knowing him as a political science lecturer. But at some point, he decided, okay, so before he started lecturing, so he was he was what we call like a clerk in the Bendel State House of Assembly. So he was just a regular guy then before the military took over at that time. So everybody was forced to find their different paths. So he landed as a lecturer. He was lecturing political science, but while growing up, he took the decision to go back to school to study law. So he did that, and when he came back, I don't know how he did. Probably he went on sabbatical or something. So by the time he came back after he graduated as a lawyer, so he started lecturing law. So he was now a law lecturer. So and he was combining that with litigation. He used to go to court, and I remember, I mean, as a young girl, I followed him to court.
Oh,
So yeah. But one thing about my background, and I will say my dad's influence is that like he encourages you like I was very free with him. I was very free with him, and I asked a lot of questions. I mean, people know me for that I asked a lot of questions. So I think I got that from the freedom he gave to me. In fact, a lot of my friends, when they come over to the house, they used to be so amazed at how free I am, like with my dad. They don't
love
have that
that.
privilege. So yeah, so I would say my dad formed a great part in shaping my personality in terms of being like fearless, I would say, and confident.
Okay, great. So now to the crux of this interview. I would like to know your story. And when I say your story, I mean the challenges that you encountered, or probably you are still encountering, that ordinarily would have altered the course of your progress, in your career. But regardless, you are still thriving today. You are still pushing through and you're thriving. So you can just share one or two of those stories with us. I'd like to hear from you.
Okay, before I answer that,
Okay.
let me address. I think I didn't really touch so much on that, what you asked before about like how I got to where I am and all that. So in answering that, so as a okay, I see myself as a lot of things.
Okay.
So apart from my regular 9 to 5 job as a maritime regulatory lawyer, I see myself, or rather, I am an author and a whole lot of other things. So as in whenever I have the chance to answer how you got to where you are, the question is where am I? First of all, where am I? I where am I? Really, I don't just see myself as a maritime regulatory lawyer. And why I'm actually stressing on this is because okay, so as a public servant, I mean, especially answering that question as a public servant is dicey in the sense that like your growth in public service in Nigeria. I don't know if it's the same thing with other parts of the world, but your growth, like your career progression,
Right.
like if you have to answer, okay, where am I currently? Your growth is not it's a factor of a lot of things. It's a factor of a lot of things, and it's not just strictly. I mean, how will I? It's kind of regimented. Like you don't have to do so little. You don't have to do so much. Just a little is required to just get promoted to the next level. So that's why I don't like to. I don't like just to restrict myself to my work I do as a public servant. Yeah. So in terms of that, like your growth, like I said, your progression is I mean, it's not clear cut out. So, but you just get promoted after a certain number of years. I mean, even with minimum performance. So for me, I like to see myself beyond all that,
Mhm.
beyond all that. So, in addressing that, let me come to your next question, like in terms of
Yes.
challenges and all that. Okay, so for my story, I don't know if you can, I mean, from what I've said so far, you can actually identify anything about me. But one thing, how I like to describe myself is that I am a non-conformist.
Mhm.
I am a non-conformist. I believe so much in the possibility of a better world. And I feel the only way we can achieve a better society, stronger organizations, is when you embrace creativity, innovation, and you encourage an atmosphere that like people could actually speak up and get their views heard and all that. So in terms of that, I am a non-conformist, and being a non-conformist it comes with its own challenges on its own because like I mean, people just tend to see you in a certain light, especially in environments where you are accustomed to, oh, this is how we do things. So, like, they see you like you're challenging the way you do things. But the only way to get better things or better outcomes is actually to challenge the current system. So, I'm a non-conformist, and that has gotten me into a number of what's it called issues. But I mean, thank God for people that like you always have one or two people that see the stuff you're made of and they like kind of support you. So I've been privileged to have such people that look beyond what's it called? That look beyond just the you coming out as a non-conformist to see, okay, what's she all about and all that. So yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have those people, and like they kind of like just urge me to go on, but they are very few, I must say.
Okay. So before you go on, I just want to tease what you said earlier on a little bit more. You said you've had a fair share of some of the issues that come with being a non-conformist. Do you mind sharing maybe one or two of those issues?
Okay, so first of all, you will stand out.
Yes.
You stand out. Yeah, so like you're in the spotlights, and like people are always like, what's she up to and all that, and like it depends on the kind of environment you operate. But like in the environment where I operate as a public sector and all that, I mean, it's a whole lot of intrigues, I would say. There's a whole lot of intrigues in the sense that, like, I mean, people don't look at the bigger picture sometimes. So when you're so focused on the now, and I mean, you don't consider the bigger picture in what is driving you and all that, then you lose like the benefits of what the bigger picture could offer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. One more thing before I move on to the next question. So I know that you're a mother and you have kids. So as being a mother affected your career in any way at any point? And if yes, how did you go about it to make it work for you?
Okay, so I would say it's never really affected my career per se, because I plan. I plan. So one good thing about Nigeria is that like you have access to people that especially like if you come from a family where you have a lot of help. So I've been lucky to have like a very older auntie live with me. So I mean, I've traveled internationally when my baby was 6 months old, and it affected. So like, if you surround yourself with the right people as the mother, and if you are willing to pay. So besides my auntie, for example, I have like two other helps, two house assistants. So like, so I pay heavily for them. I don't just get anybody. So when I'm available, I know I'm available. Then when I'm not available, I give them clear instructions on what I want them to do. So I pay heavily for, I would say, helps.
What will be your advice to women in general, especially younger girls, younger women who are just starting out and probably they are getting discouraged because things are not really working well, and especially for those who are in Nigeria, for some in Nigeria who are having difficulties at this time, seeing what is going on in the world, especially on social media. Everybody is putting out the bright pictures, bright images, about themselves doing very well, making a lot of money, even though they are making those monies illegitimately. So what would be your advice to those ones who still want to do the right thing, who want to go through the right channel to make a living for themselves and to build an empire for the generations coming after them? What would be your advice to those women?
Okay, so first of all, I'm actually very passionate about my generation. I'm passionate about like leaving my footprints in the sands of time. And just thinking about this interview today, and some things like I was going to share. So I have a foundation currently. It's called the Diligent Generation Foundation. And coincidentally, when I was in the university, I had a magazine called Generations Magazine. So this thoughts of my generation, like it's something I think about. So to answer your questions, for younger women and all that, my first advice is that you must have a vision. You must have a vision. You must have a plan. You must have what you want to get out of any job, any career you are trying to make. And in having that vision, when a lot of people start work, you could get a job initially, you just want to make ends meet, but that must never be the end goal. There must be like a mid-term plan, a longer term plan. It's okay to get a job, start a job out because you want money. You want to get money. So yes, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. But you must move from that phase of just wanting to get money to something else, to something deeper. So I shared a lot about this in my book when I wrote about vision, like having a career vision, having a life's vision as well. Because I say this because, okay, so as a young woman who is not married, for example, and in talking about this, I remember the advice I shared about this, like the advice I got when I was about leaving law school in Nigeria. I mean, at the firm where I did my, it's called law school attachment, like an IT. You know, on the last day of our I mean, internship, like one of the partners that was in charge was spoke to us and it was like, oh, that he sees all of us like we're very ambitious women, we were hardworking, but that one advice he had for us that we should be very careful of the kind of men we marry. I was surprised, like was even thinking about marriage at this stage and all that because he was like he's seen a lot of women like us, like with so much ambition, zeal, and I mean, hardworking women like us. They just missed it in life, and like nobody's hearing about them today because of the kind of men they married. And I mean, at that time, it didn't really make sense to me until I got married and until like I started seeing like things happening in marriages around me. And talking about this now, like one advice every young lady that is not married should actually take into consideration when they want to make that choice, especially if they plan like taking careers seriously. Because I know there are some women that like, oh, they just want to get married, live quietly, and all that. But like, if you have the ambition to actually effect change in your word, to like make strong impact with the work that you do, like, so you must marry a man that has the capacity, not just what he has today. So don't be driven by material things, what any man has. Some men, they have the material, like they are doing well financially and okay, but they don't have that heart to actually support your dreams, and be with you in all this your big talk of like changing the world and all that. So I mean, and I noticed for a lot of men that actually they are financially very buoyant, they usually don't like women that are very ambitious. Do you get it? So for every young woman that is ambitious, like you want to make something very remarkable out of your career, you must try to be with a man that can support that vision.
Okay.
That can support that vision. So that's my advice in terms of like career and marriage. But in terms of doing the work, like you must really have a vision. You must have a long-term plan of what you want to get. And money is not vision. I just want to make money. It's not vision. Like, so when you make the money, what do you do with the money?
Right.
So I define like work. I mean, getting work, fulfillment out of work as like the impact you can actually make. So it's either you make that impact in terms of the real work you are doing. For example, so me as a maritime regulatory lawyer, the kind of policies I can contribute to and can actually shape the maritime environment positively and can bring about development and all that. So either that, or if I'm making a lot of money out of my work, so what do I do with the money at the end of the day? So I should be able to support causes that matter in the society and that can add value to the life of people that don't have access directly to my work. So I mean, I always define work in terms of the value we get and the value we give from it. Another, sorry, because I actually I noted like three things down in terms of this advice to younger women and all that. I'm still a young woman, and I'm still sticking to this. I'm still, I'm still sticking to the advice I'm given as well. So another thing is like, I mean, surround yourself with like mentors. Like when I started out my career as a lawyer, probably because the firm I worked in initially, so I worked as a litigation lawyer for 5 years. There were no senior female lawyers. There were no senior female lawyers. So I mean, I really didn't get that privilege of mentorship. I would say, well, it's not as if the older men couldn't mentor me, but it was not really in the agenda of the organization as such. So it was later on in life I started taking mentorship more seriously. Yeah, so because when you have a mentor, like, and in choosing a mentor, you have to choose the right mentor. It's not every person that that not every woman doing well career-wise that can mentor you. Some of them, the process to which they have gotten to where they are, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go through that process. So I'm very particular about the process of how like a woman becomes what she is, like in terms of success and all that. So because I mean, some people's process is not very, it's not something like they are proud or they are comfortable enough to share. So, like, if in choosing a mentor, you want to understand the process that has gotten them to where they are. Yeah, because now everybody talks about mentorship, but not everybody should mentor you. Then, thirdly, which is linked to this second one again, is that as a career woman, as a woman just starting out her career, you really need to define what your values are early enough. Like, I mean, I knew this or I had this so clear from uh, from the day I began my career. I knew what my values were. I knew what my values were, and I don't know if you have time to permit me to share this. I mean, this one story
Yeah.
I just find it so interesting because like today, like I meet up with most of all these people and like they want to engage me on the or looking for one favor or the other from me to influence things. And I'm just like, oh wow, how amazing how the tides could turn. So when I started out my career as a lawyer, I was working in one of the big firms in Lagos. And like I don't know where you are. I mean, probably the issue of sexual harassment might not be so rampant, but like I actually had, it was one of the partners in the firm that like was making sexual advances towards me, and I turned him down. And the reward I got for turning him down was like I had no meaningful work being assigned to me anymore. I know the pressure was so much, if not that, like I had my values, so to say, clearly defined. I mean, anybody could be pressurized into giving in such situations. Do you get it? So, and I see that still happen today in the corporate world. There are a lot of girls that, I mean, they throw your salary that you could earn in 5 years, they throw it at you in one day. So if you don't know what your values are, like you could easily fall. You know, they say if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And in the corporate world, for a woman, and especially if you're a beautiful woman, you should define your values. Because like I said, the road to success, there are different roads, but you want to take the road that you'll be proud to share, that you'll be comfortable to talk. Not like, I mean, not everybody can actually come out to boldly talk about like how they got to where they are. Not everybody can come out, especially women. Not everybody can come out. So as a woman, you want to know what your values are and you want to stick to those values. So I mean, when everybody know like what your values are, is I mean, people will not come up with certain offers to you, not just in terms of like I mean, even some in terms of deals and transactions. If you are known to be somebody that like it's transparent in your dealings and all that, then you attract. I mean, you attract your kind.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Thank you. Okay, so for the sake of time, I'll just quickly do a wrap up of what you just said. You said as a woman, you must have a vision. Money should not be the vision. You also said we need to have a plan, consider who you marry, surround yourself with mentors, and define your values. Guys, I hope you heard that. Those are very you have a foundation called Diligence Generation Foundation. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you do, what the foundation does, and that ties to the last question, which is that do you have any plans to mentor girls or young women in the future? If so, can people who listen to this or watch this video reach out to you? And if they want to reach out to you, through what channel should they reach out to you? So that's like 4 questions in one for you.
Okay, so I know your audience might be global, but I'm African.
Yes.
I'm in Nigeria, so we're trying to address like most of the challenges we have in our society in Africa. And actually, in addressing that, like we are impacting the world as well because the sustainable development goals, they are all, they're all being implemented all over the world. So it's a global thing. So my foundation, okay, so let me just share a story. So in Nigeria, you have people especially the less privileged, they reach out to you for different things. In fact, some people outrightly just beg money. So I had a particular situation where a young guy reached out to me for money. Like he needed 30,000 naira. I don't know what value is that in naira. So for something like, oh, he's going to pay me in one time. And I mean, it's somebody that I know from somewhere. And I'm like, how can a grown up young man, like you're a graduate, like, I don't know. I mean, even if you're working somehow, like, so why are you begging me for money out right like that? So I asked him, I was like, I don't just give my money out like that. Like, what can you do for me? He was like, he doesn't know and all that. I said, okay, what are your skills? What are you good at? What do you do? So he said, oh, he does graphic designing and something like that, graphic designing. So I was like, oh, good. I've been looking for a graphic artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, okay, so I actually need someone to design some graphics for me for one of my social media handles. So I mean, I'll pay you, I'll give you the what's it called, 30,000 naira that you want, but it's not for free. So in exchange, when
What?
I'm ready,
Yeah.
for 1 month, you're going to just design some graphics. And he was cool with it. So what am I trying to say at the end of the day? So like if you have skills, I mean, there are ways to go about using them. And I actually uh, gave him some information that would be useful to him in actually maximizing the skills he has. So this my foundation, the Diligent Generation Foundation. We have a goal to end mental poverty. You see the story I shared about the young man now. That's a form of mental poverty. It's a form of mental poverty. And the number one goal of this sustainable development goals, the goal one is to end poverty. End poverty. So in my foundation, like we see it, especially in Africa, we see the biggest challenge. You might agree with me, you might not agree with me,
I
but the
do.
biggest challenge we have in Africa is not economic poverty, it's mental poverty. It's mental poverty. So one of our guiding idealism is from a Jamaican man. It's called Marcus Garvey, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I don't know if you've heard about him. So he was a Jamaican, and he's one of the Pan-Africanists and all that. So I really I've been inspired a lot by his writings and his life. Well, obviously not everything about him I agree about, but he was the one that made that popular statement. I think Bob Marley sang about it: emancipate yourself from mental slavery. You know, he said that if we are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, because while others might free the body, none but ourselves can free our mind. And he said the mind is the ruler. Your mind is the ruler. So any man that cannot rule or control his mind, he will have other men to control that mind for them. And that's the sad reality of the state of affairs in most African nations. And that's why, like, in ending mental poverty, it's not just for the economically disadvantaged people that people tend to see as poor. Even the rich, you have a lot of you have a lot of uh, very wealthy people in Nigeria that are suffering from mental poverty. You know why I say this? That's why the corruption is like the people celebrate corruption. Why do people try to amass so much wealth for themselves at the detriment of accountability or a lot of other things? It's because of mental poverty. So this why our foundation is focused on young adults. At the end of the day, we intend to spread this message of ending mental poverty within the. We intend to integrate it into like a mainstream life in Nigeria and in Africa. So that's our goal. So in doing that, I'm going to do that through advocacy, and we have programs lined up, but mostly through advocacy. That's how we intend to go about it. But I mean, it's just a young foundation, and with time, I mean, to further our objectives, we're going to like come up with other strategies and all that. Yeah.
So because we have just 1 minute left, I want you to answer the question, are you interested in mentoring young women and girls? If yes, how can they reach out to you?
Okay, so I am very benefited from mentorship, and definitely I would love to. And I currently do, although I do it not formally, but like one-on-one. In fact, today I had somebody reach out to me, was like, oh, she needed clarification, guidance on certain things, and I was able to do that. So I currently, so okay, I didn't talk about this, but I can't, me personally, I don't know about other people, but I can't separate faith from my life in general. So I'm a very my life. And okay, also you're talking about my background. I did mention this, but I come from a family of that we believe so much in God, and like we are believers, like we are Christians. So that's the faith I practice, and it has formed. It's helped in shaping my perspective and views towards life. So yes, so when it comes to mentoring other women, I do that actually. I do that. Like I have people reach out to me from time to time, and even my writing my book and sharing. I didn't just write any book. I wrote like the book, 12 Practical Principles on how to achieve excellence in work and life. It's a very balanced book. In fact, some of the reviews I've gotten from people that have read it were like, oh, like they thought the book was just all about hard work, hard work, hard work, but it's actually beyond that. And it's actually beyond that because, like, if you look at the 12 principles I addressed, they are like everything you need to actually live your best life on earth, so to say, because like vision that I talked about earlier on, like I'm so particular about vision. You must like have even in the working place now. Can you imagine like in my organization, like when people retire, like I'm like, okay, I mean some of them. So you retire, like nobody has heard about you in this life, like you've not made any I mean, your name doesn't ring a bell like in anywhere. Like, is that it? At 60, you retire? Is that all that there is to your life? So if I challenge myself every day to want to do more, to impact my word, not that I get to 60, oh, they throw me a retirement party and that's it. So, I'm laughing. Nobody hears about you again. And the next thing we're hearing about is your obituary. God forbid.
No.
You know what? It happens. I'm telling you the reality of like what I have seen and why I am more determined to do more, actually even beyond work, to do more. Do you get it? So and mentorship will help you. I mean, there's a woman, she's not even a lawyer. I mean, she's inspired me so much because like she's a hard worker. I admire hard workers. And like I said, I mean, if a woman, like, I mean, you're successful, the first thing I want to find out about you is like, what was your journey? How's your journey? Because I'm more interested, like, in mathematics in school way back, they don't just, the math teacher, he doesn't just mark your answer, he marks the process. So you might get the answer wrong, but like your process till the final answer might be great. So, I mean, I'm very, very much interested. Like this lady, she's an architect. Her name is Olajumoke Adenawa. So like she inspired me a lot. I had to join her foundation to actually get the chance to learn more because while I'm trying to inspire others, I'm still getting inspiration from somewhere. Do you get it? So like her journey is a very beautiful journey that I admire. I like. So even though she's not a lawyer, I mean, because success is about principles. So replicating the same principles, like anybody that achieves success followed certain principles. A part of which is what I wrote about most of them. There are others, but I wrote 12 of them in my book.
Wow.
So if you want anybody that has achieved some level of success, like you want to find out, okay, so what principles got you to where you are? Do you get it? So I wrote about vision, hard work, focus, authenticity, balance, that family balance, because like you don't want to be so successful at the end of the day as a woman, then your children, they are nothing to write home about, or you lose your husband in the process of it. Like, I mean, I know women that have changed their career and they've lost their homes, but me, I want to have it all. I want to have it all.
Balanced life.
So women, was it Michelle Obama? I don't know which woman that said like you can actually have it all, but not at the same time. So you must understand that like life we have different seasons. Like even the scripture, the Bible says that to everything there's a purpose, there's a time for everything under the heavens. So you need to know like your season. Oh, this season oh, I want to focus on family this season. I want to focus on education, or I want to improve myself, get this qualification and all that. So you must actually know the seasons that you are. And that's why I talked about like a self-awareness in my book. It's one of the chapters I talked about. So basically, I don't want to go through all of them, but like the 12 principles I talked about, there are things like you need to live a very so another thing I talk and advocate about is good success.
Good stuff.
You know, you hear about success, but it's not every success that is good.
Mm.
Do you get it? So I mean, I talk about that a lot in my conversations. Good success. It's not every success that is good. Like you don't want to get success at the expense of things that are very critical to you. Do you get it?
Earlier, you mentioned that when you started your career as a maritime attorney, you didn't really see a lot of female lawyers who could mentor you. Now that you are in a senior position, you're doing very well in the maritime industry. What are you doing to raise younger female lawyers in your field?
Okay, so I'm no longer in litigation. So, but even as a public servant, like I try to live by example. So, I mean, I'm known as a person of excellence because whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, I believe, I mean, excellence is the vehicle. Excellence, like if you do things excellently, whatever you do, is a vehicle that everyone has to travel on, whether man or woman. So there are some challenges that are unique to women, which is part of what, like in my new book, Lady. That's what. So I communicate a lot through writing. My husband sees me most times that like, I mean, my writing is very strong when it comes to communicating writing. So I do public speaking as well. But so like so after my book, I intend to like promote it. So it's not just writing the book, but like to pass the message to mainstream like media and I mean, break it down in pieces and bits that I mean everybody will get the message loud and clear. So
Thank you
yeah.
very much, Constance, for your time. This has been a very enlightening session. Like you inspired me. I won't lie about that because, like I said, I've always wanted to write a book, but the zeal is just not there. So seeing you, having written one very successful book and now you're planning on writing another, that is an encouragement for me. And of course, the key point you mentioned earlier for women, that women must have a vision, have a plan, consider who you marry, surround yourself with mentors, and define your values. Those are really great points that every woman have there needs to, hold on to. Thank you very much for your time. We are grateful. We hope to have you again, maybe next year or later before the year runs out. I hope you will be happy to be here with us.
Thank you very much. It's been a great honor.
Thank you. Have a good one and love to your family.
All right, bye.
Bye.